All right, sounds good. I've got a couple of just some short slides I put together just to kind of follow along. I think it'll make it better for especially people who are reviewing, watching it after the fact, just to lay some stuff out there. Let me, Daryl, if you'll let me share my screen.
Oh yeah. uh, hmm. Well,
Just make him a co-host, Daryl.
it doesn't show. I'm
It
gonna just
doesn't,
make
yeah.
you the host again.
Okay.
Right click on his name, it doesn't show.
No, it allows you to make him host, but not co-host.
Weird.
The way it's set up, I guess.
All right. So everybody should be seeing a bear.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, so for those of you that don't know me, I'm John Hast. I'm the Bear Program Coordinator with Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. Spent I don't know, about 6 years over in the Forestry Department, and got a degree from there, and then spent I'd say probably collectively a year or more living in and around Robinson Forest over the years. So familiar with that end of things. So, and some of the reasons behind this training, I mean, I started spending time in Robinson Forest in 2007. There probably wasn't a bear in Breathitt County at that time. And so, fast forward to now, and we've got probably a healthy, likely a breeding population in parts of Breathitt County. Definitely when you get just a little bit south of there. So makes makes this training just a little bit more timely. So got a couple people hopping on just now. So I kind of broke this down into three parts, and this is going to kind of follow along. We do a lot of these trainings for different groups, Kentucky State Parks. We work with the park rangers, and there's kind of different components. But I think for the purposes of this, we want to talk a little bit about a background, kind of some background info on Kentucky bears. That's often misunderstood, where they came from, where they are. The bear in downtown Lexington definitely threw a wrench in what I've been saying for years. But then we want to talk about bear safety in the field and in Robinson Forest. So if you're out doing field work in other parts of Kentucky or back in Robinson Forest, and then bear safety at camp. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and discussions. So feel free to stop me in the middle if I'm not making sense, but we'll definitely save some time at the end. So this is essentially the distribution map that we show. This is in all my presentations, and it's on the website. We've got a core bear range in dark green. Those are places where we've just got dense populations. Those are counties where we focus our research. Those are the counties where we have good population estimates. So we know we've got bears there. That speaks to where our bears came from. So they've essentially recolonized on their own in from West Virginia, Virginia, and Tennessee. Tennessee had a little help with some reintroduction they did down in the Big South Fork area, but they basically walked themselves back into Kentucky. So Robinson Forest there at the little red cross there on the map. I mean, it's firmly in our resident bear range. Whether or not we've had a bear born in Robinson Forest, I couldn't tell you, but I know we've had reproduction in Breathitt County, Knott County, Magoffin County, all the surrounding counties. So it's firmly in that lime green resident bear range. And then when you look at the rest of the map, I wanted to make the whole rest of the map gray. A bear can pop up anywhere. And really, we kind of narrowed it down. But we've got bears out and about all over the state right now. So if we look at these we've got an online mapping system for nuisance reports. So these are where our nuisance reports have popped up. And so you can clearly see that it really follows those core counties. So this is over in Pike County, down to Middlesboro, over in that Big South Fork area that matches up with our core counties. But you can see that we've got bears traveling around. A good number of reports up here around Moorhead, kind of through the outer bluegrass here, and we've got a bear that's been running around Litchfield for a couple days. I mean, that's what I consider West Kentucky. You know, he's making, they get across I-65 there in West Kentucky. So, and then of course we've had this cluster. Unlike what the first news articles about the Lexington bear say, we did not know about the bear in Lexington for weeks. We knew about it in rural Fayette County. So we've had a handful of reports. This goes back to about the 10th of June, kind of wandering around here between basically Hamburg and Winchester and wandering around towards the south, but then you got him, you know, right in the middle of town. And so I only stuck these slides in here to say you can run into a bear anywhere in Kentucky right now. So we've got, you know, if you're in Paducah, you're closer to Missouri bears than you are to Kentucky bears, and they do the same type of roaming that they do, that they're doing right now. And so really, the reason we saw a bear in Lexington, here's a screenshot from the video, and I was appreciative that we had a good video of this, that it wasn't, you know, is this a big chow, a big chow dog? No, it's clearly a bear. And then I had to use a little Google Street View. It's been a while since I've been over there, but you know, that bear walked right through there. And so the reason they're doing that at this time of year, young males get kicked out of the breeding range in June and July and take walkabouts. You know, that's been, I've tried to mention that in every news article that I've done, that this is a very normal, you know, it's a dispersal mechanism for these bears. So they get kicked out by the older males, they get kicked out by the females that aren't interested and intend to walk. Did I think one would end up in Lexington? Absolutely not. But, you know, I think we've gotten through that unscathed, and in the process educated a lot of people about bears. So, so before we get into the bear safety in the field section, I want to mention that all of this information is from www.bearwise.org. Basically 12 wildlife biologists, all the bear biologists in the Southeast United States had the idea to come together, produce one website, and have consistent bear information no matter where you're at. And really what was behind that is people would travel through the Southeast and get different bear info when they were at Cumberland Gap. Then they would go to the Smokies and get a different, you know, different amount of bear info, different things that they thought they needed to be doing. And there wasn't one place for everything. And so over the last 3 years, we've put together bearwise.org, and that's just, you know, a clearinghouse for all information bears. It's got good info on biology. It's got good info on how to protect your garden. It's got good info on, you know, what we're going to talk about, hiking and walking, doing field work with bears. It's got an entire section on what to do at your Gatlinburg Mountain Chalet, how to make sure the bear doesn't get in your car, how you don't end up with a viral video. So either way, as we go through this with questions, or if you want to review it later on, bearwise.org is a great resource for that. And so essentially, I kind of break this down into what I call bear sightings and what I call close calls. So if you're hiking or walking, a couple things to think about. Be aware of your surroundings. I know it, you know, when I would spend 6 months in Lexington taking class and then get back out into the field, it takes a little bit of an adjustment to, you know, kind of get back in tune with nature, to where you're, you know, you can kind of leave your head a little bit and have a bit of a sense of what's going on around you, which is always good. Hike in groups, work in groups, you know, and stay together. Obviously, not really an issue at Robinson, but keep the kids in sight. Dogs are an issue. You know, I don't know what the policy is at Robinson now these days, but there was just some really good research that came out about off-leash dogs as being a major factor in provoking a bear attack. So I used to do tons of field work and had 2 great dogs that I kept off leash in places that I could, and I've since put them back on the leash. So that's something to think about. And then make noise. That's always, you know, there's some people that wear bells, but make noise. And I think when you put this in a Robinson Forest context, if you're running a chainsaw, you know, you're being bear wise. That's loud. The bear knows you're there. You're probably not going to run into somebody. If you're running around on an ATV, getting on and off every few minutes, you're making noise. If you've been sampling a stream for the past 8 hours quietly by yourself, you know, you're probably not making much noise at all. You're walking around on a wet stream bed being fairly quiet. So I think you've kind of got to put what you're doing, you know, you've kind of got to rate it on a scale of, okay, I'm running a chainsaw, bear knows I'm here, versus I'm being very quiet. Let's see. I think I missed one there. There we go. So, and then we're still on that bear sightings end of the spectrum. If you encounter a bear in the woods, you know, that's one of those things that it's like, that's a great thing to see. We're all working out in the woods to see cool stuff and to be out there with nature. So, you know, encountering a bear in the woods is awesome. Got to do a couple of smart things to not make it become a problem. You know, if you see a bear before it notices you, you could simply stand up out of a stream and see a bear 50 yards away that's picking along doing its own thing and has no idea you're there. You essentially just stand still, remain quiet, enjoy the moment, you know. And then the best option then is to move away quietly in the opposite direction. So just kind of let it keep doing its thing, get an understanding of where it's going, and then you kind of bug out the opposite direction. So on the other end of the spectrum, if the bear's aware of you, obviously don't run. I mean, it's not going to do any good. And they say it may trigger a chase response. There's not a lot of evidence of that, but it could happen. But basically what you want to do, back away slowly and wait for the bear to leave. Really the best thing you can do for a bear is to let it know what you are. Start yelling at it, start talking to it, make sure you're standing up, stand up on a stump. Let it know what you are. We don't want to give the bear any you know, any reason to wonder, because they're actually pretty curious. They'll come a little closer to see what's going on. So at this point, we kind of cross the threshold into like a cool experience that you can come back to camp and talk about and say, hey, saw a bear, that's awesome, into you know, one that might not be as fun. So essentially this crosses over into the close calls, into the aggressive situation. So if a bear approaches you, always stand your ground, back away slowly if you can, know what's behind you, back down the road if you can. Make yourself look bigger. This works in almost every instance, and should be your first instinct is to at least raise your hands. Even better if you've got a jacket on, unzip the jacket and kind of grab the bottom of it and make it look as big as you can. And that should just be instinct. Start yelling at the bear. And then down here at the bottom, and we'll talk about this as we go through, at this point, you would want to get your bear spray out of the holster and ready. And be prepared to spray the bear. And I've got a section here kind of after this where we'll talk a little bit about bear spray and really, you know, what context it should be used in. So number one thing, if you've got a bear that's looking at you and approaching you and that is curious, stand your ground, make yourself look big, back up slowly if you can, and you should be yelling at it and prepared to use your bear spray. So if a bear follows you, so you've stood your ground, you've started to back away and it's still coming, again, stand your ground, appear large, and back away only when it stops. So this speaks to their curiosity, is they want to smell, they want to see what's going on. And then again, intimidate the bear. Look big, throw sticks at it, wave your arms, shout, clap. And then the very last one here is stay together. If you're out sampling a stream with 2 or 3 people, this is the time where everybody needs to group up. Get on the forest radio, let everybody know this is when 3 people is definitely better than 1 if you've got a bear following. And then obviously, worst case, if one charges you, and they will, a bluff charge, as it's called, is a defensive mechanism, and it's not a lot of fun. It's happened to me, and it will never be something where I can remain calm. But they do it fairly often especially when they're cornered. A lot of the bears I'm dealing with are generally bad to begin with, and sometimes in an urban environment, and they like the bluff charge. They're trying to protect their food stores or whatever dumpster they're hanging out in, and they'll bluff charge you. But again, even when that's happening, standing your ground, remaining calm, nearly impossible, but try to do it. And then at this point, if you've got your bear spray, spray it at the bear. If you're without bear spray, standing your ground, looking as big as possible, and essentially being ready to, smack that bear on the head with something is your best option. And then, pretty well worst case scenario, if a bear makes contact with you, fight back. Absolutely anything. There's no rules at this point. But the big thing with black bears is do not play dead. We're talking about most likely you're dealing with a 150 to 200 pound bear. I mean, the size of, the person and the bear are going to be fairly comparatively sized, and you absolutely fight the bear. So it does not get to this point very often, if I can stress that. It's not like this is happening on a weekly basis anywhere. But if it does, you fight back. So I've got the little Robinson Forest radio icon down here because anything that you've got that you can hit the bear with is great. Pull the radio off, smack the bear on the head with the radio, and keep at it until it goes. So talking about bear spray, it really is the ultimate answer to bear safety. It has been scientifically, we're all scientists here, it has been scientifically proven to work. There's been some great papers out over the years comparing bear spray, essentially looking at bear attacks and what factors help the people survive. And bear spray was far better than a firearm, far better than any other thing you could have. It's safer. It's typically easier to get out. People feel more comfortable with it, and people tend to carry it more often, which is the most important part. Accessibility of the bear spray is absolutely the most important part. So I've got a short 1-minute video from Bearwise that I feel more or less sums up just a good short intro to bear spray. Let me know if the audio is not good.
I'm Fred Bowdy. Whether I'm hunting or hiking, when I'm in bear country, I trust my safety to bear spray. Hey, the research is in. In 92% of the incidents, the bear spray stopped the activity. In 98%, nobody got hurt, including the bear, and that's important. I've got it here on the pack, which is a great way to carry it. You undo the safety strap, reach through, undo the safety catch, and then use a 2-handed hold so you can be accurate with your spray. You want to go for a couple of short sprays in a zigzag pattern. So let's look at that again. Safety strap, safety catch, and 2 short sprays in a zigzag pattern. Now remember, bear spray is a non-lethal weapon. And like all weapons, you need to practice. So get a couple of cans of inert spray and practice at home, because your life just might depend on it.
All right, so he made a couple of great points in that short video. And number one that I really liked, he had his bear spray accessible. That's the number one most important thing. You might as well leave it at home unless you can get to it quickly. They recommend being able to have it out in 2 seconds. So that means it's on your belt, it's on your backpack strap, like he had it in the video. It's somewhere accessible. That's the most important thing. I've cringed 2 or 3 times when I was down in the Smokies where people were proudly showing off their bear spray that they dug out of the bottom of their backpack. That's completely worthless. It needs to be on you. So a couple of things. We're not endorsing this company at all, but they are one of the leading bear spray manufacturers and have been. But I've got the web address up here because they've got probably an hour worth of instructional videos and then great information on bear spray. And they recently quit selling it direct from this website, but they've got it on Amazon now, which is easier than ordering it for the website for us. So you can get bear spray off Amazon. It's reasonably priced, about $30 a can. It comes with a holster. It's not a bad deal. The fellow in the video did mention practicing. So they make training cans, or they call them inert cans. They're the exact same thing, but they're just filled with a white spray that doesn't do anything. It's simply there to practice with, to get an idea of how far the spray goes, to get an idea of getting the thumb latch off of it and actually spraying it accurately. So what I suggest that folks get, they have a 2-pack, one real can and one inert practice can. And that's probably the best bang for your buck to really become prepared. You should definitely practice with this. And then again, practice, figure out where it needs to be, where you can get it quickly, whether that's on your belt or on your backpack strap, anywhere. It's got to be on you. It's worthless if it's in your backpack 100 feet from you, it's effectively no good. So this is something that most of the time when we do these trainings, we go into it a little bit more in depth, just as far as when we're in person, actually spraying a can and having people practice with a can. It just really, I think a lot of people think these weigh as much as like a fire extinguisher or something like that. They're incredibly light, like less than 5 ounces. You don't even know you've got them, and I think that's really the fact that convinces people that they can be easily carried with no problem. So that's something that we can go into. If you're not comfortable with it, check out the Counter Assault website, watch some of those videos, call and talk to me anytime, and we can set up some further training in that regard. So now kind of moving over to bear safety in camp. So I promise this isn't an actual photo from the Robinson Forest dumpster, but about 75% of all the nuisance problems that we have in Kentucky every summer deal with either residential garbage or commercial garbage. There's lots of good food in the garbage can. They're usually in places that are easily accessible for bears, and bears get in the cans and make an issue of it. As the bears get in the cans, they become more used to human food and more bold. And it typically ends in, a bear approaching somebody, and then that bear's got to be caught and euthanized. So I have always said that these big residential garbage cans that we see at Wendy's or behind a big store, it's sort of the gateway drug for a wild bear to become sort of a fairly habituated kind of ex-urban, small town Kentucky dumpster bear. So we have been focusing on the big commercial dumpsters this summer with some pretty good success. So really, when I think about my time in Robinson, the only issues that I can see in the entire place is the dumpster and then some of the cans that are around the cabin. And before we talk about the specifics, sort of the main point to the whole Bearwise deal is what they call the 6 Bearwise basics. And 2 of these, they all apply to life in Robinson Forest Camp, but 2 of them really apply. It's number 2 up there, securing food, garbage, and recycling. And then the last one on there, alert neighbors to bear activity. The more I use the 6 Bearwise basics, and the more time I spend working with nuisance bears, if we could do 2 things, and that's secure all the garbage and make sure everybody knows there's a bear around, it would solve the vast majority of the problems that we've got. So when thinking about bear safety in camp, and what my recommendation would be to improve things, is to remove the trash cans near the cabins. Now, this may already be done. We talked about it when we had a bear issue last summer. We talked about it, and that may already be done, but that would be my suggestion. And so essentially, it doesn't really complicate things anymore. But instead of having a trash can outside the cabin, you would just take your trash from inside, from the kitchen trash can directly to the dumpster. And that at least puts all garbage that is accessible to bears in one spot that's safely outside of camp. It's easily viewed. So an important part of that is take the trash to the dumpster in the daytime. It's little things like this. There's no really reason to, take the trash out at midnight. That's when you're going to run into a bear at the dumpster if there's one there. So, if you're walking back towards the shop in the morning to start your work day, that's a great time to take the trash. And keep a clean camp. That's never a problem at Robinson Forest. But, just be mindful. Occasionally there'll be something left around the fire pit. Those are all things that can put a bear right into the center of camp that can be pretty easily avoided. And then, like I said, alert your neighbors to bear activity. If you look out the window and there's a bear cruising down the road or cruising down, the middle of the cabins there, let everybody know. And that really can keep, really helps to keep people safe, keeps people aware of the situation. In that situation, the best option is to remain indoors. Let the bear wander. If we're keeping a clean camp and we've got the garbage up, bear's got no reason to hang out there for very long. More than 5 or 10 minutes, and it's gone. Like I said, avoid the dumpster after dark. That's a vulnerable place where you may run into a bear. And then I used to worry about stepping on a copperhead on the way to the bathhouse, but nowadays I think you've got to worry about a couple of different things when you're going up there. So I was actually spent very little time in Robinson, actually at camp when the sun was up. We left before we were darting elk. We left super early, intended to get back super late. And if you wanted to shower, you were walking up there in the dark. That was just how it was. So some things to do in that situation: make some noise. The bathhouse has good lighting. You're not going to surprise one going around the corner of it, more than likely. But just some common sense. Let if a bear's there, let it know you're there. Make some noise. Go in a group. That's not a bad option. So with the dumpster in mind, that I think the ultimate goal of Robinson Forest should be to be bear proof. And really, in that situation, in the situation at Robinson, it's not difficult. I mean, it's a clean place. You've got storage indoor and outdoor. You kind of get to make the rules for the people that stay there, which is great. If you need them to do one thing with the garbage, then that can become the rule. So a lot of different options for the dumpster. They make commercial bear-proof dumpsters, which may be overkill. We have been, my crew in East Kentucky has been slowly getting set up to do dumpster modifications. This is us here recently putting a lid on a dumpster at an apartment complex in Benham in East Kentucky. So, in the heart of bear country, we've still got open dumpsters in a residential area about 20 yards from a playground. you know, we've got to get working on these. This, you know, so for a situation like Robinson Forest, it could be as simple as a little electric fence that doesn't take anything to maintain, and will essentially, as it's up, it's, you know, the difference between an electric fence and just a fence is the fence excludes the bear from the garbage, but the electric fence actually gives it, you know, actually hazes the animal. You know, it comes to the dumpster, gets a shock, it actually hazes that animal, which is good. So just to finish it out, we've got a dumpster. This is at Kingdom Come State Park, which is on the top of Pine Mountain in one of our highest bear densities. And it's got a metal lid that we built for the top of it. But we use it, you know, obviously the smell is still coming from the dumpster, even with a metal lid. So we use it as sort of a test situation for our idea was, how can we figure out the simplest electric fence possible? And so what's around this dumpster right now is, these are 6x6 treated blocks with a 99-cent piece of rebar, basically rebar fence pole in it, and one string of electric fence tape. And so just to play a short video, just to show that these things work, we added a little incentive and put a little peanut butter on the electric fence wire. So, you know, we ran a camera on it and never saw that bear again. So it doesn't have to be, you know, bear proofing a place like Robinson Forest. You know, the dumpster doesn't have to be difficult, but in my opinion, the ultimate goal should be to keep a fully bear-proof camp. And when I'm talking to state parks and you know, UK definitely falls in this mold. Being bear-proof sets a good example, which is definitely something that we need in East Kentucky. So that's really how I've won over some of the state parks to spend a little money. In the case of Robinson Forest, I don't think, you know, it wouldn't take anything to become bear-proof and really help things out in you know, with the safety in camp. And it's a rare day to have a bear come through there, but where Robinson Forest is located, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's quiet. It's probably been quieter the last couple of months than it ever has, unfortunately. So, you know, we don't want to give them an opportunity to get used to eating out of the dumpster, get used to getting a snack by the fire pit. And that definitely helps keep everybody safe. So that's what I've got. I'm happy to open it up for questions as long as we need. If anybody's got anything. So, and we can talk about the UK bear too. So.
I'm glad you mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
Fight a bear. Sorry.
What's that?
Debbie's audio is messed up.
Your audio's messed up again, Debbie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always heard that the best thing was for you to lay down and play dead. So I guess that's not the best thing now. I'm glad you mentioned that.
So that's a grizzly bear. That's for the grizzly bears. So we don't have to, you know, we've only got black bears. So a grizzly bear will just simply kill you and eat you very easily. And so playing dead, they get less excited. But for a black bear, you want to fight the whole time.
And you mentioned make something big and then makes a noise and stuff like that. I also provided some Noisemakers in addition to the bear spray for Robinson Forest. You guys ever just use those little air horn things?
Yeah, it's not a bad option to have, for sure. Anything that can make noise. I mean, banging a stick on a tree, just being as loud as you can. are, you know, when I'm talking to somebody, a lot of times we have folks leaving for work early where they're leaving in the dark. There may be a bear between their house and the driveway. And it's literally, my advice is bang 2 pots together. So whatever you can get that makes noise, for sure. That definitely helps.
Yeah, every time anybody asks me about that, I just say, you know, they got good ears, and you know, as long as you're not being quiet and they're not cornered, you know, they'll just mosey in a different direction unless you're carrying food or something that smells really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, you know, that we talk about in this a little bit, where you're not necessarily camping back in Robinson. Food storage is just one of those things. There's ways to do it. I wouldn't think twice about, you know, having my lunch with me. Maybe put it in a Ziploc. Definitely don't accidentally spill peanut butter all over your backpack, something like that. But really, food storage on sort of day trip type situations, keep it close to you. You know, the bear's not going to just simply walk up to you because there's a, you know, peanut butter sandwich in a Ziploc bag in your backpack. That's really not a factor. If you're leaving your backpack away from you for hours at a time, then you could expect it to be rummaged through at some point. They make different, you know, tubes that hikers will use to keep their food storage and that kind of stuff. But for day trip stuff, it's just not practical and seldom the reason why things go bad.
Well, I think that's good for all of our field people to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it, you know, keep clean, throw it in the Ziploc, keep it on, you know, keep it near you. Don't let them have a snack at your, you know, if you leave your lunch on the ATV, don't let them have a snack over there.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, I think, you know, we'll make this recording available, and I think a lot of people will review it later on. And I really want to thank John for doing this. We haven't, you know, we might have had a different experience if we weren't in lockdown, but we
Yeah, for sure.
need to get it done.
No, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Daryl, did you invite the graduate students to this?
Pretty sure.
Okay. I mean, a lot of them are on vacation, I think, right now. So, but maybe we should send the video or a link to the video to them at least.
Sure.
Yeah, that'll be good. And then my email and cell number on that first slide. I'm happy to talk. You know, let us know if we need some help. We can be of help at Robinson Forest with the dumpster. Let us know. We've got folks that do that kind of stuff every day. So certainly happy to help.
Well, thanks again. I won't keep you.
Oh, no problem. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let me know if you see the bear in town.
Yeah, really. Right over there.
Awesome. Well, y'all have a good rest of the week.
I told Matt that the bear must have heard about all those fancy collars the other bears were getting. So
Yes.
he was coming to the department to get one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think he's out of town right now. So that's our last, kind of down on the end of Clay's Mill. So we'll see.
That's where I live.
Is that by your house? I was getting a lot of good Ring doorbell footage from the neighborhood app down there. A person I know lives down there and was forwarding me the security videos. It
Wow.
wasn't doing anything but walking through backyards trying to get out of town. So it'll be all right. Carry your
They
bear
jump
spray.
fences?
Oh yeah.
Will they?
Yeah. No problem.
Maybe I need to rethink letting my Chihuahua out at 12 o'clock at night.
Not a bad,
No.
not a bad idea. No, I think he's long gone by now. I figure after 4th of July, he decided he didn't want to be in town.
I bet you're right there.
Yeah.
My dog didn't want to be in town either.
Yeah. Sound like a war zone in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, good deal. Feel free to holler at me at any time. So, if anything comes up.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. See ya.
Appreciate it.
If so, we just gotta get that recording
I'll
link.
stop the recording.
So I started it and then made him the host again.
Oh, he has to stop it.
So it's still recording. And then, I mean, I guess he could just make me the host again.
Make him the host, John. That way,
You got it.
yeah,
Okay. So now I'm gonna stop the recording.
record it on your